Welcome everyone into this third installment of my UEFA Champions League preview. Number three is Group C, which is one of the more intriguing groups in my opinion, not necessarily because of competitiveness top to bottom, but because of the storylines from top to bottom. This is a group filled with reunions all around for players and managers. Of course, Claudio Bravo had been sold from Barcelona to Manchester City as Pep Guardiola was desperate to kick Joe Hart to the curb, and that's exactly what he did by bringing in the Barcelona man. So that'll be a quick homecoming return for Bravo. Meanwhile, many people will be talking about Pep Guardiola returning to Barcelona. As we all know, Pep Guardiola enjoyed an immensely successful reign at the Camp Nou. He won 5 trophies in one season there. Was an immense success. So he will be hoping for results more along the line of what he had at Barcelona than he did at Bayern Munich, where he failed to win the Champions League. And, the reason why Manchester City brought Pep Guardiola in, make no mistake, was to win the Champions League. They could have continued to win the league, the English Premier League, under Manuel Pellegrini, but that was simply not going to be enough. They want to win the big kahuna. And, it starts now. They're obviously coming in with a lot of momentum after finishing and making the semifinals of last year's Champions League competition. But to continue along that train of thought I had with reunions, Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, Barcelona's now unquestioned number one keeper with Bravo out of the picture, will return to the club where he got his start at Borussia Monchengladbach, the 4th place finishers in the Bundesliga last season, and a nice little reunion as well for Brendan Rodgers, the manager of Celtic now, and Luis Suarez, where they can relive their glory days at Liverpool together, albeit only through a little chit-chat, as it will become no love lost for Celtic and Barcelona. So when we look at FC Barcelona and we break them down, obviously the conversation begins and ends with MSN, perhaps the most lethal strike force attacking trio in the history of world football when all is said and done. The three of them combined for 131 goals together in all competitions last season, 17 of which came in the Champions League. In my opinion, Lionel Messi is the best player in the world. It is certainly a close, contentious debate between him and Cristiano Ronaldo. But, Messi is not starting to decline just yet. I mean, people were certainly raising eyebrows at the whole blonde hair dyeing look. He has dealt with his fair share of drama recently with the retirement and quick unretirement with the Argentinian national team. But, Messi plays his best football for FC Barcelona. No question about that. Neymar is, going to try to get back into the fold and, get up to full speed after his holiday on the heels of Brazil's Olympic gold medal. Meanwhile, Luis Suarez, in my opinion, he deserves to win the Ballon d'Or. His goal-scoring numbers have just been out of this world. He's been the most effective goal scorer of the MSN bunch as of late. And, his drive, his will to win, his hunger is unmatched by any player, truly, in world football. Now, when we look at the midfield, there are some interesting options there Barcelona has, as always. Andres Iniesta is captaining the side, and he is 32. You wonder when he is going to really start declining. This might be his final season playing at a world-class level. And we already saw him kind of regress a little bit last season, but still, one of the greatest ever to play the game as well. Ivan Rakitic, he had his critics early on during his time at Barcelona, but he is very integral to what Barcelona does. Tiki-taka cannot function without players like Rakitic. He makes great passes. He scores very nice goals as well. and can do the job from set pieces too. Now, one of the players who I like being critical of because of his on-field behavior, but not necessarily because of his talent, is Sergio Busquets. He loves to dive. If there's anything Busquets is better at than playing football, it is certainly diving. But without a doubt, one of the top, if not the best, holding midfielders on the planet. And they're really really strong in the midfield as always with Barcelona. But when we look at Barcelona's new acquisitions, they dealt with that transfer ban for a while. They had to put up with that, but they made some good splashes in this summer's window. Signing Portugal international Andre Gomes. Paco Alcacer in La Liga, signing Samuel Umtiti from France, who I loved watching play in defense for France at the Euros, and Lucas Digne, who is coming in from PSG as well. So, it's hard to say definitively who will replace Dani Alves. Sergio Roberto did a good job in deputy duty for him last year, but it's very hard to replace a player of Alves' ilk. Meanwhile, the center of the defense of Barcelona will be as solid as ever. Javier Mascherano seems to be getting better with age. He seems like the human version of a fine wine, and Gerard Piqué can be one of the best in the world as well when he's fully dialed in. So when we look at Barcelona, the clear favorites of the group in my eyes, it won't come easy because Manchester City is going to be coming in more confident this year with an extremely loaded squad, especially in the midfield. But first things first, looking at the front line, Aguero is going to lead the line for Manchester City. No question about that when fit. But that's the key operative phrase here is when fit. Aguero's dealt with a host of leg injuries. But here's the thing, guys. When Aguero's out, it's not time to panic for Manchester City, and that is because Kelechi Iheanacho, the Nigerian international, is a young wonder kid stud. He gets it done week in and week out when he gets the chance to play. He can just come right onto the field, off the bench, and score goals. He is going to be a top player for a very, very long time. But it's talking about the midfield, though. They are so loaded that it's obscene. It's just unreal how loaded this Manchester City team is. And when you run through the list of names, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Jesus Navas, Fernandinho, yes, I mix them up all the time. Fabian Delph, David Silva, who in my opinion is still the top midfielder in the squad, new signing Leroy Sané, and Raheem Sterling. When you just run through that list of players, you can't be scratching your head at Pep Guardiola's decision to omit Yaya Toure from the Champions League squad. Toure, it's been pretty clear for a while that he is not a top player anymore. His effort has oftentimes been questionable at best. So it's time for out with the old, in with the new. And, in with the new, there are new top players there. Leroy Sané, I think, is going to become a world-class player in time. Kevin De Bruyne, his set-piece delivery has been absolutely top-notch so far this season. Ilkay Gundogan was a huge coup in terms of signing a top deep-lying playmaker who is going to bring so much to that team. Jesus Navas at times can be a bit of a one-trick pony. I'm not sure how much Guardiola rates him, but he'll remain a factor. Both Fernando and Fernandinho are such solid players who are veterans of the squad. Fabian Delph is going to find playing time hard to come by. And Raheem Sterling, after a disastrous first season for him at the Empty Head, he's really found his form and is going to make Guardiola's selection headache all the more agonizing if he continues up his form. Now, new signing up towards the front of the park, an attacking forward, winger type player, Nolito, coming in from Celta Vigo, has been another key acquisition as well. I think he is going to cause Barcelona problems when he lines up against them. He's certainly familiar with them, and I like his style of play a lot. Very pacey, skillful, and can finish. When you look at the defense, though, that is both the most experienced and most concerning part of Manchester City's squad. Vincent Kompany is the captain, but he's also a liability due to his pace. When you got guys like Messi, Neymar, and Suarez running at you, do you want Kompany defending them? I don't think so. I think you'd rather have guys like Nicolas Otamendi, who is a very solid player, even John Stones. And John Stones has a long way to go to justify his exorbitant price tag that was, I believe, well over 40 million euros. But with Guardiola's tutelage, he can become a top player too. Now, looking a little bit further down the group, Borussia Monchengladbach qualified for the Champions League, not automatically. They had to do it through the last qualifying round. And they have some players that are worth keeping an eye on. Lars Stindl is the new captain after joining up just a year ago as a result of Martin Stranzel's retirement and, of course, Granit Xhaka's sale to Arsenal. So Stindl was going to be counted upon to be a leader for that team, even though he hasn't been at the club for all that long. But this is a club with very, very talented young players. Of course, name recognition-wise, can't forget about Thorgan Hazard. You know, Hazard, younger brother of Eden Hazard, you know, excelled in his loan move at Monchengladbach and was later sold to Monchengladbach. Now, when that deal went through, it was kind of a try before you buy situation, but at the same time, even though Monchengladbach owns Hazard now, there is a buyback clause in his deal, and Thorgan Hazard's made no secret of his desire to return to Chelsea one day, so he will be playing with the motivation of moving on to a bigger club. But Hazard, you know, has already gotten on the score sheet in multiple games this season. It's early days, but he is still proving to be a very effective player. And Mahmoud Dahoud is a very, very exciting young starlet. You know, Liverpool tried so hard to buy him over the summer, as Jurgen Klopp highly rates the lad, but he is going to be playing Champions League football this season, and I would keep a close eye on him. If you're looking for a fantasy Champions League sleeper, Dahoud could bring very positive value there. Another player that can ring a bell for some fans is Christoph Kramer, a defensive midfielder who played pretty well for Germany in that 2014 World Cup winning side. But the player who is really, in my opinion, most worthy of keeping a closer eye on that perhaps most people are unfamiliar with is Andreas Christensen. He is currently on loan from Chelsea, and he was actually named the club's Player of the Year last season, ahead of Granit Xhaka, who is, in my opinion, another top player. So Christensen could play a major role. Now, when we talk about the team that I think is virtually guaranteed to finish last place in the group, that would be Celtic. Celtic, the team that had a tough time getting through Hapoel Beersheba in the final round of qualification. They went through 3 separate rounds of qualification to make it through the group stage, and I think that Brendan Rodgers has got to be bracing himself for a very, very rough draw. Yes, it's going to be a tough time. You know, he had the audacity to compare Scott Brown to Steven Gerrard, and even though Scott Brown is a terrific player, I thought that was a ridiculous comparison. But at any rate, Brown is captain of Celtic. He is a very talented player in his own right, experienced as well. But, you know, I look at that defense, and it's just like, how are they going to get it done? They have Diedrich Boyata, who was comically poor at Manchester City, and Kolo Touré, who is just, you know, a liability due to his non-existent pace. You know, Touré's had a wonderful career. Has been a great player in his day, but he's past it now. So instead, Celtic's going to be relying on players like Nir Bitton, you know, very strong holding midfielder. You know, James Forrest, Scotland international. And in terms of attacking play, they're going to look very heavily upon Scott Sinclair and Moussa Dembele, the former Fulham player. So looking at the predictions here, not too surprising. Barca 1, Man City 2, Monchengladbach 3, and Celtic finishing 4th and crashing out. So with that, I bid you adieu until next time when I will talk Group D.